course, we are here with Tadhg, one of our developers, and we are here in Thailand, Bangkok for our annual meeting. And he has flown all the way here from Ireland. So since we have him here, we're going to take advantage of that time and ask him a few questions. So what was your inspiration on studying computer science?
So computer science, so I was always interested in, I suppose, computers and logic and maths. So I suppose it's just a combination of all those things. And like when I was young, it was like the first thing I was going to do. And I considered a few different things, but I think it was always going to come back to doing that, you know. And I'm definitely very glad I made that decision now.
Do you play computer games?
No, when I was younger I did. I don't think that was like my main inspiration. Maybe some way, but I don't know, just kind of more interested in like maths, machines, how things work. So yeah, just all this kind of combination of all those things together, I'd say, you know.
Nice. And tell us a little bit more about your master's in Trinity College, because you studied on the blockchain privacy mechanisms, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, generally was like studying blockchain and was looking for a specialty. So was looking at Ethereum and what exactly could be applied to Ethereum. And this was still relatively early days of Ethereum, so there wasn't many sort of privacy solutions at the time, or you know, the ones that were there weren't particularly effective. So got into zero knowledge proofs, was looking at ZK-snarks and Zcash, and then one of the Solidity devs, Solidity is a programming language in Ethereum, released a proof of concept for a ZK-snarks on Ethereum program. So for my master's, I took that and worked it a bit to make a system for confidential transactions in a smart contract. So this is where I can send you some amount of Ethereum, but I can actually the contract can prove that the amount that I sent to you was, it can encrypt the amount that I sent to you from sender to receiver, so that only you know the actual amount that I sent to you, but on the contract it's totally encrypted and hidden. So that's done using ZK-snarks. It's the technology behind Zcash. And then learned a bit more about Zcoin then later, like going on.
I see. Could you explain to us more in terms of like layman and what ZK-snarks is? Because there's all this ZK-snarks wording going around in terms of like privacy coins and stuff. So.
Yeah, so I mean, ZK-snarks was developed by the same researchers who developed Zerocoin, and you know, it's still zero knowledge proofs. It's more of an extension to that protocol. Still quite different, I guess, but you know, an extension to it and developed by the same researchers. It's the main program that's used in Zcash, but I guess it's more of a zero, like, you know, what zero knowledge proofs are is a way of being able to prove that you have some input to a function without actually revealing what the inputs to that function are. So ZK-snarks generalizes that for any types of different programs. And you can write a program, any type of algorithm, and prove that you know the input to that algorithm without actually revealing it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That still sounds really extremely smart to me.
Yeah,
and I heard that you're working on the Zerocoin protocol and how it's benefiting Ethereum, right? So could you explain to us or elaborate on that as well, please?
Yeah, no problem. So as I was mentioned there, you know, Ethereum back then hadn't really got a big focus on privacy, but the protocol is always improving. I mean, Ethereum is still technically almost maybe a beta or alpha product. It's in like mostly in development. So in the last release, they actually allowed for people to build more sophisticated cryptographic protocols, because they added these base contracts to it, and they call them precompiled contracts. And from that, then you can build those more advanced protocols out of it. And one of them that they added allows you to build Zerocoin, as well as other types of schemes that are similar to Zerocoin. So that's basically what I've been basing my work off at the moment, is that contract. And what I've worked on so far is a library to allow people to use this contract in different ways, and I'll be releasing that generally for Solidity quite soon. So that's just that can be for anyone who's actually building smart contracts can make use of this library.
So you're specialized in the smart contract side of
exactly. Yeah, Ethereum development.
Awesome.
Mostly.
And to kind of further secure the privacy on Zcoin, in your opinion, what would be the next thing that you'll be working on?
Absolutely, yes. So Zcoin at the moment has a bit of a scalability problem with Zerocoin itself. Zerocoin is a pretty computationally heavy program to compute on chain. So I think the next stage will be, it comes from a couple of different angles. You have that scalability issue. You have an issue with you've an issue with just generally I suppose the amount that you can do, but then as well we're looking at ways to do confidentiality of the transactions as well, so hiding the actual amounts. But I think scalability will be quite a big issue. What I've looked at, and as I've talked to so many people at this conference, is to do with is Truebit. I think it's an excellent solution because it doesn't require changing the blockchain for it to work in a lot of ways. It's what they call like a second layer protocol. So if we're going to look at changing that generally so that it can work for Zcoin, and we can have much more Zerocoin transactions on the base Zcoin blockchain.
So Truebit is where you can take it off chain. Is that right?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
So how does it work off chain wise?
Yeah. So basically, instead of blockchains that do computation have a lot of security necessary for that to work, and as a result, they're limited in the amount of computation that they can do for every block. This is how Ethereum works. It has a limit to the amount of computation you can do, and that makes it extremely expensive compared to regular computers. You can run the kind of stuff that you have to run on Ethereum is basically would cost nothing in any computer, but on Ethereum it's expensive. So that is the essential issue. And there are scalability solutions for the blockchain itself, whereby you improve it. You include things like sharding, is a solution that's being looked at. And there are other kind of on-chain solutions for scaling. But a Truebit just routes around that. And instead of actually changing the base protocol, it looks again to a second layer solution. And what it does is that computation is done all off-chain, and the results of that are just posted to the blockchain. Anyone who is a verifier can come along, take those computations and run them themselves, right? So if someone who is a verifier detects that someone posted some incorrect computation to the blockchain, this verifier game begins that runs certain parts of the computation, and it has a mechanism of verifying that it can detect if there was someone who's cheating. If you detect that someone is cheating, you get money for doing that. So it's this incentive system for making sure that the computations are done in the correct way. Now, Truebit have developed this for Ethereum, where that verification game actually happens on the blockchain. So the idea is that we would take that and we would build that verification game into Zcoin's blockchain, and then have that as a separate application layer solution. So we can actually have extremely scalable Zerocoin transactions.
And how do they get rewarded at the moment?
So there would be a deposit if you want to submit your Zerocoin transaction to the blockchain, and instead of you paying gas to have that run, you would provide a deposit instead. The deposit will vary, or we haven't quite decided exactly what that would be. But you post that deposit, and if it's okay and you've done the transaction correctly, you'll get that deposit back after some period of time. So give it a couple, 2 or 3 blocks maybe. It'll just be again, those kind of finer details will be decided. You wait a period of time, and then assuming that you posted your information correctly, you just get your deposit back. So we can include a lot more transactions then in the blockchain.
Wow. Yeah. And earlier you mentioned sharding. Could you kind of elaborate on what sharding is?
So I'm not totally familiar on how it works from a technical perspective. What I do know is that the basic idea is to split up the blockchain into a number of smaller shards. Right. And then each of those shards can actually perform more computation independently. And then there's a way of connecting up all of those shards in such a way that you still achieve the same security overall, but they can each perform more computation independently, so you get a more scalable blockchain.
That's awesome. All right, one last One last question. What's your hobby? I mean, outside of just coding and working on Zcoin, what's your outdoor hobby or indoor hobby, whichever?
Music mainly, I suppose.
Music?
Yeah,
like play an instrument?
Play an instrument, play guitar, and
wow.
do some music stuff myself. Reading and that as well, I suppose, most of the time. It's like either one of those two things. I think that would be my main thing outside of it.
Not a lot of developers are musicians.
Really? Yeah.
You should write a song for Zcoin.
Yeah.
Look forward to that.
But a lot of engineers are musicians. I think it's like interestingly,
are?
yeah, like, I mean, in the same sort of like just understanding how it works, and I think I noticed that there's some sort of trade or similar trade off between the two.
There is?
Yeah.
Like how? In terms of
to do with
music
the
and
theory.
developing?
Yeah, well, like the from an engineering perspective, maybe like how the theory of it works.
Right.
And it's very practical, like to play an instrument, and technical in a way. So there's some.
So it works the same side of the brain?
I think so.
Kind of,
Yeah. Those kind of.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when are you going back to Ireland?
On Tuesday. Monday night actually. Yeah.
Okay,
I'll be
cool.
back on Tuesday.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here with us.
Yeah, no problem at all.
And if we have any questions, we shall, comment down below, and then we'll try and get Tadhg to answer your questions.
Yeah,
Alright.
and if anyone wants to help out on Zet, the project I'm working on at the moment, feel free to pull my code and decimate it.
Yeah.
All the ethos is open source.
We might or might not give a reward. No, I'm joking. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to me. All right. Thank you so much, Tadhg.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for your time. All right.